Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Breakfast with Boom. I am your host, MrBooMStickXL, and we are in full swing to summer. School is officially out, and normally it's a slow time of year for gaming news and opinions, but we have that in spades today. Obviously, we have an amazing panel that I'm going to be introducing any second. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. If you're just joining us, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to it. Lots of opinions, but a lot of also live content that you can't find anywhere else. So let's get into these amazing guests. First up, you know him as the youngest panel member who does not like scary games, but his love of the Fable franchise is second to none. He's an Xbox gamer through and through, and he's a content creator extraordinaire and one of the nicest guys on these YouTube streets. Please welcome Zemi Games.
Thank you so much, Boom. As always, your intro is just fantastic. One of the best for intros. Thank you so much. Super excited to be here. Can't wait to start diving into the topics, and thank you so much.
Oh, listen, it's always great to have you, dude, and I love your honesty about the scary games thing, and you do have a strong opinion, and you are a significant part of this community, so I'm very happy to have you as a regular panel member, so thanks again for being here. And of course, we have someone who helped me learn the ways of becoming a content creator. He's currently floating on an island, hoping that the plane flying up over his head will drop a properly made calzone. He's a creator of the incredible Four Guys with Quarters and a very dear friend to me personally. Please welcome Clowns.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Always a pleasure being here, Boom. And man, you do fantastic intros. I
learned from Cognito.
It is the best.
Which, by the way, he won his title back again after Sunday's ILP. If you don't know who ILP is, you definitely should learn. The Iron Lords podcast is one of my personal favorites. Not only that, I consider everybody on that show and anyone that's attached to the ILP brothers of mine. We obviously spent 7 amazing days together in LA during E3. So if you're not subscribed to their channel, please go over there and you will definitely be entertained. And you know what? We have someone who we know as a die-hard gamer. He's also a hard worker, but underneath his work clothes, people didn't know this, and I'm unfortunately going to have to out him. He's a part-time superhero because he saved this show more times than not. You know him as an amazing community member. Please welcome Dreadpool.
Oh, thank you for the intro. Greatly appreciate it. Anytime I can help out, I'm here.
Well, we definitely appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. As always, the bat signal went up. You answered the call. You're here. I'm Commissioner Gordon, and we're going to have an amazing show. But you know what? I kind of want to talk about something that's serious. Now, this show is not political, and this topic is not going to dive into who the president is and what, our feelings about what he's doing. But I have to talk about this because it is gaming news. And if you're unaware, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have publicly come out against Trump's tariffs, which are going to be, possibly put forth very soon. And this is good. If this does happen, this could mean super high prices for the consoles coming out in 2020. And I pulled this story from Game Rant, and they go on to say that Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have joined forces to tell the U.S. government that its newly proposed tariffs on goods imported from China will hurt consumers, put jobs at risk, and stifle innovation, according to a joint letter sent by the companies to the Office of U.S. Trade Representative. And as part of this ongoing trade war with China, the Trump administration has proposed a $300 billion in tariffs or taxes on foreign goods on most consumer goods. This would include a 25% tariff on video game consoles. For those purchases that go forward despite tariffs, consumers are going to pay $840 million more than they otherwise would should the tariffs not go through. And the thing is this, being that all the major console manufacturers have parts built in China, the U.S. customers, I'm sorry, will unfortunately be paying the price over what seems like a very unnecessary price war. Gaming as a whole is an expensive hobby, and unfortunately, more times than not, I have seen many community members basically robbing Peter to pay Paul when it comes to getting either a new console or a new game. And that's really crummy. And again, I don't know anybody on this maybe not on this panel, maybe not in the chat. I have been on the other end of the fence where a game has come out and I'm like, you know what? I can't afford that game. So I'm just going to have to read about everyone playing it and watch videos until I can afford to do it. And guess what? That's a real shitty feeling. And, listen, I understand that gaming is a luxury, just like many things that we do outside of our daily lives. But because life could be so hard, gaming is definitely a gateway for people to escape how shitty this world can be. So Clowns, I want to go to you first on this. You did the math, and I'm going to let you talk about that. What will the PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 cost gamers if this tariff does go through?
Well, if we're thinking of a price point of $499 times 25%, tariff tax or whatever, it's going to come out to approximately like $623.75, and then on top of that, whatever state tax is. So it's going to be pretty hefty and expensive. And I think there's going to be a huge downfall from this if PlayStation and Microsoft don't get this, tariffs reversed or lowered. It can cause a big repercussion on what people can afford. Not only that, but think about retailers like GameStop, where a lot of people trade in systems to get new systems. Right. Kind of keep them in business a little bit, right? So if all the new systems have tariffs and GameStop's got to sell at the higher price, or even Walmart, wherever you go, it's just not going to be feasible for those retailers to hold large inventories of these items.
Yeah, it's very concerning. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to really break down, and I kind of just want to talk about the letter that was sent, and I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to get the rest of the panel's opinion, and I want to get the chat's opinion. We have almost 50 people watching live, and the show just started, so thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate the support that Double Barrel Gaming has been getting, and it's because of you that the show has been as successful. So let me read this. In a joint letter that was dated on June 17th, all three companies say that 96% of video game consoles imported to the U.S. are manufactured in China, and that due to the custom hardware inside of them, they can't easily be made elsewhere. So this is what the letter exactly had to say. The video game console supply chain has developed in China over many years of investment by our companies and our partners. The companies say it would cause significant supply chain disruption to shift sourcing entirely to the U.S. or to a third country, and would increase costs, even beyond the cost of the proposed tariffs on products that already are manufactured under tight margin conditions. Dreadpool, I want to get your opinion on this. What when you hear what they're saying, are you concerned?
Oh, very much so. Not everybody has money to spend, so you just got to figure out what you can afford.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And that's the worst part. Getting it jacked up like that, you just can't do it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to put a lot of people on the. I mean, listen, everyone that I know personally. I'm not saying everyone struggles with money, but obviously no one has money to burn. At least I certainly don't. Being a retired guy, I get a pension, folks. That's it. And what little money I get from YouTube, that's it. So unfortunately, if there's a $100 or $125 price hike, possibly more, certain decisions are going to have to be made. And what's concerning is there are a lot of folks in our circles that we run in, with this community, that have the ideology that come November of 2020, which is supposedly going to be when both consoles launch. We all want both consoles, right? We want a PlayStation 5, and we certainly want an Xbox 2, or whatever the hell they're going to call it. this might actually be a situation where folks will have to pick one of the other, and power and support and services and games are going to make the real call for gamers that really had it in their head to buy both consoles but now can't afford to because the prices are so jacked up. So Zemi, before I get your opinions, I know you have a lot to say on this. I just want to read the last part of the letter. It says, each video game console comprises dozens of complex components sourced from multiple countries. A change in even a single supplier must be vetted carefully to migrate risks of product quality, unreliability, and consumer safety issues. Tariffs would significantly disrupt our company's business and add significant costs that would depress sales of video game consoles and the games and services that drive the profitability of the market's segment. Now, I mean, obviously, that's a real damning letter. Zemi, I know you have a lot to say on this, so I say go crazy, but what are your opinions on this outrageous price hike possibly?
Yeah, so to start off, I kind of want to mention that Dragon Wolf actually posted something really, really interesting into the chat. He said that that looks like streaming is going to be growing quicker or whatnot. Like the ability, like using xCloud to stream games would be growing quicker, and that would most certainly be an excellent way of getting past this, especially for consumers that don't have a whole lot of money, possibly streaming. Maybe if Xbox made it where you could use the xCloud on a current Xbox One console, that might be a big way of going around this entire thing together. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to raise prices. It's definitely going to not have very positive effects on the gaming industry as a whole. We're definitely going to see some slowdown with it, but I don't think it's going to be as terrible as what a lot of us are thinking, simply because Clown threw out the number $323. That's correct, but that's also going under the idea that this is only going to affect America, which I don't think is the case, because America is a huge superpower. Whenever we do something, it affects all other countries in the world, and I think that we're going to see a lot of these gaming companies not just markup for America, because America is a huge buying power. So many Americans buy things. It's a huge market. So I think that we're going to see all across the board on the entire global market an increase on these consoles, and by doing that, it's going to lower the burden on the American market. So for instance, instead of charging Americans only Americans in the market $100 more for the console, I think we're going to see $25 more in this market, and then we're also going to see the Canadian market go up by 25%. Or $25 instead of $100, and we're going to see that in all other markets. That way, it can reduce the price for Americans, and I think that that's probably what we're going to see. And another example is if Xbox decides not to share the burden with all other countries and all other markets and just raise the global price of the Xbox, and PlayStation decides to do that, then PlayStation is going to be able to sell at a lower cost. So for competition wise, I think we're going to see an increase, but I don't think the increase is going to be as massive as 25% only in America. I think it's going to be worldwide that we're going to see this. Canadians are going to be paying more for the Xbox. People in the UK are going to, people in Germany, France, America, of course. But I don't think it's just going to be an American thing. So it's not going to be that Americans are going to just have to pay $100 more. We might have to pay $25 or $50 more. And then the rest of the world is probably going to have to pay $25 or $50 more as well. But it's definitely not going to do good for the gaming industry as a whole, I don't think.
I mean, listen, anytime you see a situation where, we at this point have no control, right? We're American citizens, and we basically are just waiting kind of just to see exactly what happens. Obviously I haven't personally seen any of our local governments saying, they're going to do a petition to Trump's office. But if, again, this is not a political show. This is a video game show. And the only reason why this is coming, this particular topic is being discussed, if anyone is questioning whether or not this is going to turn into a different kind of a show, it's not. But this is important, and everyone should know about this, because it's the increase in pricing is not going to stop at just the game systems being made. You understand that? A lot of these, this is where the digital format purchase may actually digital games are already selling every year. It's going up. But if this goes through, think about how much money. I mean, are games going to go up? Games are 6501 here after tax in the states, right? And obviously, each state differs. Some states are a little bit more, some states are a little bit less, but that's what it costs normally, 6501. To press these discs, they're not doing that here in the States, folks. That's being done overseas, and it's being imported. So games themselves could eventually go up as well, putting more cost onto the consumer. Now games are now $70, right? So now games are $70 and microtransactions are still there. So the consumer is still going to pay more. This is where digital, I think, is going to become a big thing. I want to go back to you, clowns. Do you agree with digital sales going up if this goes through?
I think we'll see more companies, devs, and publishers, hint at, okay, well, if there's tariffs on the physical medium, then go ahead and buy digital. And it'll give them more reason to push digital sales more than, physical, because they don't, the way that the tariffs work is when the item is received, the person or the freight carrier receiving those items is the one that has to pay the tariffs, usually causing the markup in prices. So they're going to realize that a lot of their shipping companies are not going to want to pay higher tariffs, so they're just going to say, "Yeah, go digital."
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, again, it makes. I mean, I'm already almost digital. I only get the physical stuff in the collector's editions, right? That's where the physical. I don't actually go out and buy physical discs anymore, because I do like the convenience of it downloading by itself at midnight. Or, I wake up in the morning and boom, it's ready for me to go. Dreadpool, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, you're a hardworking dude, and like many of us, decisions have to be made. Gaming is, of course, a pastime. And unfortunately, some people have to put that aside to pay bills. Rent, mortgage, your Con Ed, your cable, life, that does get in the way, and this could really affect the American customer. What are your opinions on games possibly also going up because of this tariff?
Excuse me. I do see them going up. I do also see publishers going with the new idea of, hey, let's do digital games only for now, because we've seen some of the smaller publishers doing that, pushing out the game digitally, and it's digitally only, and then all of a sudden, about half a year later, maybe even a full year later, they come out on disc. So they can't even afford to lose that money to produce the discs and push it out there and sell it that way, because if it's going to get jacked up, who's going to pay $75 for let's say a AA game? Because
you're right.
It has
that makes sense. Stigma. Yeah. I think everyone is going to be hurt by this, and like I said, I know that Trump is supposed to meet with the president. Meet with the president of China during the summit today. I don't know if anything's going to come out of it, but I really hope that that does not go through. But Zemi Games, I want to get your final opinion on this particular topic, because obviously people are here to listen to games, and we're going to talk about games in a second. Do you think that games, discs, like the physical media that some people actually really count on? There are a lot of people. I mean, a perfect example is you look at like Noof Nukem. Unfortunately, he could not be here today because he's not well. So I obviously send him a message of get well soon to Noof on Twitter, and he'll see it, I'm sure. I mean, do you think that the prices of games are going to go up? And he's a physical media dude.
Yeah, so I think for physical media, like, actually buying the disc, I think that price will go up. I don't really see any reason necessarily why digital prices would go up, much less just besides the greed of publishers. So I think for physical discs, we might see an increase in the price of that, but I don't really think we'll see that in in the digital, and on the digital side of things.
Digital side, I don't think you would, right?
And I definitely agree with what Dragon was saying in the chat earlier. I think that we are going to see a huge boom into streaming games. I think we're also going to see a huge boom in, possibly Game Pass and some of these other services that PlayStation might come out with and whatnot. I think that we're going to see a huge boom in the digital market, and which is a shame because, people should be allowed to buy the games however they want to buy it. If you want to play physical media, you should be able to play that. And unfortunately, if prices go up, many people may not be able to play the games or play the games on the certain media that they wish to play it on.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. Like I said, we're gonna know, and obviously, stay tuned to this channel. We're gonna be, obviously, if something happens before next week's show, we'll be updating everyone's, on. I'm sure. Listen, everyone that's watching now already tunes in to a lot of the YouTubers, so stay tuned to the channels that you like and you respect the most, and you'll get the information that you need. But you know what? I want to move on to the next topic because obviously this is a game show. And look, I don't know how many people in the chat are going to see Spider-Man Far From Home. I already have my ticket for Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. I cannot wait. I'm very stoked. The movie is getting ridiculously good reviews. They're saying it's one of the best Spider-Man films ever made, depending on who you ask, and who you listen to. And I'm super stoked. And obviously the MCU is hot. The MCU is super hot right now. And coming out of E3, there were a lot of questions into Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics' Marvel's Avengers. We didn't get a chance to see any real gameplay. Like I said, I wanted to play the game, but at E3, you kind of got to pick your poison. And the line had a 2.5-hour wait. And it's just, you can't get to everything. So I didn't get a chance to actually see, or actually hold the controller playing the game. But some new information has popped out that I pulled from comicbook.com, of all places, one of my favorite sites to go to. Marvel's Avengers is being touted as a single-player, cinematic-led story for its single-player audience. And this new information is obviously, like I said, being reported by comicbook.com. And what's exciting is that both players on both sides of the fence, including single and multiplayer fans, will have something to look forward to. And this makes me actually a very happy gamer. Hearing this has me really excited for May 2020. And that this new Marvel game, and I think that we haven't seen a lot of great Marvel games in the history of video games. Especially if you're an older gamer, it depends on what kind of game you like. And we have been fortunate that we had Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 last year, which was absolutely amazing, no pun intended. We have this month, as a matter of fact, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3, which is an exclusive for the Switch. And now we have this Marvel's Avengers coming out that's going to be multi-plat. I'm super stoked to hear that this is going to have something for both parties. The single-player, story-driven kind of a game is something that I want in a Marvel title because you get to play your character and it tells your story, and then when you're done with that, you can go and play the multiplayer part of it, which you'll be playing with up to 4 players, kind of like Destiny. Destiny is 4. No, Destiny is 3. I'm sorry. It'd be more like Anthem, where you're playing with 4 players. So, according to Bill Roseman, the vice president and creative director of Marvel Games, who is spearheading the game's development, the core of the game is in its single player with a strong, engaging story that will have players at the edge of their seats waiting to see the engrossing tale transpire. And this is what he had to say. One of the things that unites Crystal and Marvel is our love of stories and storytelling. See what else he says. He says, there's a huge spine of a single player cinematic led story filled with action and drama, but along the way you can branch off and do multiplayer and go on special missions, even those missions connect back to the story. So it sounds like you're going to be doing multiplayer part-time and single player to and they're going to merge together. I want to go to the clowns on this one. We didn't know a lot about it. I wasn't even sure if we were going to see anything at all at E3 2019, and we got a nice opening. It tells an emotional story in the couple of minutes that the trailer was. It looks fantastic. When you hear this, that it's going to have both single player and multiplayer that somehow are going to merge into a one big story, does this excite you about the game?
I apologize, but my phone kind of went off there a second ago.
Oh, not a problem.
So could you just state the name of the game?
Yes, Marvel's Avengers by Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you, Boom. This I did not really see anything of.
Okay.
However, I am a huge Marvel fan, so I am gonna get it anyway, regardless whether it looks good or bad.
Well, I mean, listen, I think it's going to look fantastic, to be honest with you. I think it's going to push the boundaries of what we expect in graphics. It is being led by Crystal Dynamics team that did Rise of the Tomb Raider. That's considered their A team, which is great because the talent obviously is there in spades. And if you're a Marvel fan, I think this is going to be the game for you personally. But what are your opinions about the single player and multiplayer that they're eventually going to merge together in some form to tell a complete story?
As far as that goes, I'm not opposed to it. I think we kind of seen that a little bit with Titanfall when they force you to do campaign missions, online. So if it's anything similar to that type of method, I'm all for it, and I think it would be exciting to get in there and play with other players, even if it's forced co-op. The only thing that I would be against would be that if you could not complete it if you didn't have online access, that would kind of like hinder my judgment a little bit, and think it's unfair for people that can't get on the internet right away or have internet issues or no internet where they live.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be kind of a bummer if you missed out on a portion of the story without going online. But I mean, obviously, as gaming gets more into the future, I'm pretty sure that the amount of gamers that are actually online as opposed to not being online, it's a staggering amount in difference. And they didn't mention that. And I didn't see any I don't actually ever see any developer talking about that, for that matter, about if you're offline, sorry, you don't really hear too much about that. That's pretty interesting to think about. But Dreadpool, I want to get to your opinion on this. Obviously, like I was saying in the opening, the MCU is big, and Crystal Dynamics has confirmed that the game's core story is in fact for single player. And only the side and special missions are co-op. But even most of the missions can be played, even the co-op ones, by yourself. I think they're just going to be computer controlled AI, which would be fine. But there's no doubt that this is definitely one of the front runners for 2020. Whether it's going to be game of the year talked about, I don't know. I have to see the game. I have to play the game. But they're talking about extending this story. When Destiny first came out, they said, it's a 10-year plan, and we're going to have 10 years worth of content, and we know what happened with that. So, but they're touting big events. Are we going to get a Secret Invasion? Are we going to get a Secret Wars? Are we going to get crossovers with the X-Men and different heroes and villains like that? It would be very interesting to see what are your excitement levels for Marvel's Avengers coming out in 2020.
It's Marvel, of course we're excited.
That's a great point.
The real question is, how come we can't have it now? But no, I mean, who doesn't like Marvel? I mean, right now, like you said, they're hot. Everything's going on. They're doing everything right. Unfortunately, the Switch game is the one thing that's wrong, but that's my opinion. I just don't like the fact that it's only on Switch. I have a Switch, but I'd rather play it on my Xbox.
Yes, I agree.
So,
right.
Unfortunately, that one I'm going to have to wait for. This one, being that it's multi-plat, obviously I'm looking into it. I'm going to be probably not a day one buyer, but relatively close on the new release. So hopefully I'll see a good sale or something, and that's when I'll get it. I have to limit myself on what games I get day one. So right now it's in the contention of day one. Anything else that comes out in 2020, I may have to save up for, or push that one back. So yeah, I'm excited for this. It sounds good. I like the idea that it's not okay. Well, we've done playing it. What else can we do? Oh, let's throw in a little bit of multiplayer, a little side mission. Okay, but they're going beyond that. Hopefully, from what it sounds like, that they're going to keep creating more storyline. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this is that the content, all of the content that's going to be coming to this game in the form of new worlds, new stories, new tales, is all free. I'm not sure if anyone in the chat or anyone on the panel actually knows that. Now you're saying to yourself, well, wait a second, Boom, hold on. I smell microtransactions. And you know what? They've confirmed that they're going to be in there, but they're not going to be in your face gross. I think that the microtransactions that they're referring to are going to be for the Marvel purists, i.e., Dreadpool, me, and a few other people that are in the chat. I love the fact that a particular character may have 10 different skins. Now, if they're $20 skins, i.e., Fortnite, well, then you can count me out. I'll wait for a sale. I'm not spending $20 on an outfit. But if they're reasonably priced, where they're like $3 or $4, maybe even $5, obviously, if let's say, for instance, Spider-Man comes to the game and he's going to be there. The only hero that we know outside of the core Avengers is Hank Pym, the Ant-Man. But if Spider-Man, when he gets there, if he's not already in there, maybe they're saving it as a surprise. And there's the Symbionite suit. Well, you can best believe that Boom will be buying that. And obviously, I'm a classic Captain America fan. He's obviously my favorite hero of all times. So I wouldn't mind dropping $3 or $4 to put the 1940s or 1950s outfit on him, as opposed to what he's wearing now. So it's going to be very interesting. And Zemi, I saved you for last because we know that you're not the biggest superhero fan, and that's perfectly fine. And like I said, that's what I love about you on the show, is the complete honesty. But with that said, hearing that Crystal Dynamics, the team that did Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was absolutely one of the best in the series, no doubt about it, is working close with someone from Marvel to write the stories, to make sure that they get it right. Are you excited to see, what the fans are going to be given by this title?
Yeah, so I'm not a strong superhero fan. I'm really not. But, I'm actually kind of interested in maybe buying this game, to be honest. And I think that really speaks volume to how good I think this game looks. I'm not a superhero fan. I don't really dive into a lot of that type of stuff, but I really, really like the direction that they're taking it, with a very strong, narrative story. I think one of the most important words and a quote that you said at the very beginning of the story was the word cinematic. I love a single player cinematic narrative experience like that. It's just my bread and butter, right? I love single player games, and just for that reason alone, I'm actually really, really interested to see what else comes from this game. If I bought it, I probably wouldn't play any multiplayer on it. I would literally just go through the single player. But I'm definitely really interested. And from what I remember of seeing from the E3 trailer, the gameplay does look like something that I would definitely be interested in. It doesn't seem like your run of the gun superhero button mashing game like we've seen so many times before, which I think is really refreshing. I don't know. I think that the game stands to have a really, really huge success. And they definitely have me on the hook. Hopefully they don't lose me. Hopefully they don't, announce something that's just really out there that just has.
Well, listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm pleasantly surprised by your response, because obviously, again, not being the biggest superhero fan, when you hear the words cinematic, you think heavy in story. And I as a comic book fan growing up, who also read graphic novels, obviously, growing up reading the comics, your imagination has to take a little bit of the wheel from when you're reading this, to make these comics come to life, and to see a game, to see the Marvel's Avengers come to life the way it has been depicted so far has me absolutely over the moon. Like I said, I'm a huge superhero fan in general, but Marvel is my go-to universe. I mean, of course, I like DC, but DC's characters, they just, in my opinion, again, I don't know if I'm going to lose any subs over this, but DC can't compare. And that's just my personal opinion on it. But I would be really willing to play a Justice League game if freaking Rockstar would ever announce what the hell they're making on that. Rocksteady would announce whatever they're making on, in the future. But you know what? I want to segue this particular topic into single player games. And according to a report that I pulled from, once again, comicbook.com, they're stating that single player games might be safer bets than live games in 2019 and beyond. And this new revelation is basically music to my old school ears. Many on this panel and several awesome individuals in the chat today are old school generation gamers. And these folks are saw the birth of the single player game, something that was heavily put upon most players back in the days. Remember, we didn't start getting online until, like the Dreamcast, a little bit of the GameCube, some of the, obviously with the Xbox Live, and then later on the PlayStation. But as this market has been changing to the ever growing games as a service, there are games that do both really, really well, that give you a strong single player game and also say, okay, when you're done with the single player game or you want to bring your friends in, you can. And some of the games, obviously, immediately that comes to mind for me is Destiny, The Division 2, Gears of War, Halo, GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and of course, the Borderlands series, just to name drop a few. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I actually credited the wrong site. It was actually Polygon that I pulled this article from. And the writer there says that there's still a market for single player games, but they need to be really good to be successful in this competitive marketplace. And I do actually agree with that. Unfortunately, there's really no room for a so-so story-based game. That's what Zemi was saying about the cinematic part of the Avengers. That's what has him. If it's a boring story, he's going to lose interest immediately. But you know what? Because this panel has a strong history in gaming through numerous generations, dating back to the Stone Age, and like I said, Zemi is 26. I quoted him as 25 years old, who may not ever have heard of Power Stone on the Sega Dreamcast. I wanted everyone's opinion on the importance of keeping the single-player game alive in the next generation. So I will start with Zemi. As a matter of fact, you are the youngest of the panel, and I don't know, I'm not sure how far your history goes back, what actually was your first system, but for you, seeing from where you were as a kid to where you are now, how multiplayer has really just kind of taken over, are you happy to hear that single player games still have a place in 2019 and beyond?
No, I mean, I already knew they had a place. But no, I'm really, really excited. Hopefully this article will push for more single player games to be made. Because I just absolutely love them. Maybe I think you've actually said this, that you're a selfish gamer. You like jumping.
Yes, I am.
all by yourself, not sharing it with anyone, just enjoying what the developers created. And I'm the same way in that sense. I think multiplayer games have kind of gotten a little bit too saturated in the market, I think. There's just so many, there's so many multiplayer games. It almost seems like there's really almost barely any very, very good single player narrative driven games. And so I would love to see more games like that coming out. I would love to see more high budget games from big third party studios, but also like indie developers. They can't really put all of their money into making a huge cinematic experience because they're a smaller company and they don't have a whole lot of money because they're not attached to a publisher. But I definitely want to see a lot more single player games hit the market. I mean, two of my favorite games, quite possibly my favorite game so far this year, is A Plague Tale. That is an indie game that just has a strong narrative gameplay. And then my favorite game last year was Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is another indie game that had a spectacular story and was single player as well. So I really, really hope we see a huge trend spark back up in the single player gameplay.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that single player games don't necessarily have to have a multiplayer part to succeed. I think that, again, this is where the microtransactions comes in. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, Boom, I don't really like microtransactions. They kind of ruin it. Yes, if they're gross, if they're loot box based, if they're like, the nastiness that happened with EA with the Star Wars Battlefront 2, then of course it's gross and it's encroaching on, you playing the game and enjoying it because they're trying to push these microtransactions down your throat. But I'm in the belief that because I enjoy single player games so much, I wouldn't mind dropping a couple extra bucks on a season pass, or buying an outfit or buying something to help the company not lose money, I guess, if that makes any sense to anybody, because I want to see more single player games. I tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a multiplayer mode just thrown in there just so they can say, well, it has multiplayer. That I don't want. And we went through that, not this generation, in the 360 generation. Games had multiplayer that didn't necessarily deserve it or need it. And I don't want to see that return. Clowns, I want to get your opinion on this. Of course, you're an older dude like myself. You have, a lot of gaming history under your belt. And you obviously grew up playing a significant amount of big-time single-player games. Are you happy to hear that articles like this are being written and that people are still talking about the fact that single-player games still have a huge place in the market?
Yeah, I think being an older gamer like us, Boom, is a big piece of this. I grew up loving single-player games, especially like Earthbound. I loved the Mega Man series growing up. And hearing that even in today's world where Call of Duty dominates and Overwatch is dominating, like champ.
Clowns, you there, brother? You cut out. Zemi, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to make sure because Clowns unfortunately cut out. I want to Clowns jump back out and then come back in, and we'll get you. You'll finish your opinion. But Dreadpool, I want to get again. You're an older dude like myself. You appreciate the classic part of gaming. A single player ruled the roost back in the days. Are you personally happy to see that gaming in the single player mentality still has a place?
Oh, definitely. We definitely need to keep the variety of gaming open. So like you said, today's days, everybody wants to play multiplayer. That's what everybody's going for, Call of Duty, everything. But we definitely need single player games. We need to have that the essence of playing by yourself, to enjoy the game, to get wrapped up into the story. That's what the single player games are for, is to feel what the story is about, to envelop you within it. So there's a place for that. I'm also on the idea of, I like to co-op. So even if it is a single player game, if it'll allow me to bring in a friend or two, I'm all about that too.
Okay,
but I definitely
cool.
want to have a single player storyline. There needs to be stuff like that. If we don't have that, we're going to lose it all. We're going to end up with, what is it, Black Ops 4.
I definitely don't want that.
No. Yeah.
So we gotta have the variety there. We can't just solely go off in one direction and say, forget single player. There's no need for that because it's only a one and done. No, it's not. Some people actually play their games multiple times. And
Yes.
some of these games, if they're written correctly, you can have multiple outcomes on the single player story.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. I'm going to say this. What I'm happy about, if you look back to last year, let's take it back, rewind time for a second. And Clowns, are you back, brother?
I'm back.
Okay, I'm going to get your opinion in just a second. Look at Red Dead Redemption 2, right? The multiplayer is a mess, but no one cares about that. We only care about the fact that people could put 200 hours into a game that I didn't finish, and I kind of in the fourth, just about getting to the fifth chapter, I kind of lost my steam with it. It just was a very slow, methodical game, and I think the game is gorgeous. It deserves to win any award that's thrown its way because it is a masterpiece. It's just I kind of lost interest a little bit because it was a little slow. But then you take single player games, which Sony is absolutely the masters of at this point. You know, God of War and Spider-Man come to mind. Detroit Become Human, throw that in there too. 3 games that were in my top 10 of 2018 and deservingly, should have, need to be there as a gamer with a conscience. And they were strong single player games. So getting back to Clowns, when you see titles selling, I mean, God of War sold 10 million copies, right? I'm not sure what Spider-Man sold, but I think it's over 10 million. And Detroit Become Human, yeah, it's not everyone's game, but if you haven't played it, I highly recommend that game. And then, of course, Red Dead Redemption. There's no introduction needed. It's great to see single player games still have a place, but in your opinion, are you happy to see that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think single player games are very important. I think it helps us define ourselves. I think they're more relaxing than MP games like Call of Duty, where I get stressed out and feel like I had a bad day after every match, even if I do good. I just feel like time was wasted on this thing that is never going to get completed. With single player games, you feel like completed when you beat the story. You feel like you got to an end and you learned something about the character. You're involved like a movie or a book. It's just, I don't know. It feels so good just to get there. As an older gamer, I think you can relate, Boom. Zemi, I hope you can relate too. And I think Dreadpool can relate. But like Earthbound, when I beat that game, I felt so fulfilled. When I beat A Link to the Past, I felt so fulfilled. When I play Call of Duty and I beat a multiplayer match, I don't feel fulfilled.
I agree.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. You know what? There's nothing. I mean, when you beat a game, let's say for instance, like, obviously we want to take it back. We'll talk about let's talk about Final Fantasy for a second. Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation was and is a masterpiece. And when you beat that game, it was a single player game back in the days, right? You felt like a champion of justice, like you just saved the world. Same thing with a game like Metal Gear Solid, for instance, or the original Halo Combat Evolved. Now, obviously on the PC, you can play multiplayer. We didn't get multiplayer until Halo 2. But when you beat Halo Combat Evolved, I mean, didn't you feel like a sense of pride that you saved the universe? That's something that you only get with multiplayer. Now, granted, I'm not taking away anything from people who enjoy doing like these big raids. That's significant, especially when you're working with a team and you do something and then it's a big team effort. That's great. But we're just talking about single player. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Clowns. That sense of triumph that you have can only really, in my opinion, be found while you're playing a single player game. But again, this is, before we move on to the next topic, I kind of want to just get anyone that want to throw anything out there regarding single player and its significance. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic. You know what? According to this article, they're saying forget the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. There are currently at least 10 major games already in development for the next generation consoles, and this would definitely give owners of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Anaconda something to show off their new hardware, which I, of course, enjoy doing. Sony's PlayStation 5 and Microsoft's Project Scarlet or the next Xbox, whatever you want to call it, scheduled to arrive in fall of 2020. Now, there's been rumors that some are saying October. I'm thinking November for both. One at the beginning, one at the end of the month. Who's going to go first? Who the hell knows? But here's a list of games that I pulled from the website Business Insider that they're saying are currently in development that are going to play a big part in the next generation. And it's great to know that we're going to have a lot of games to play on these new behemoths of consoles. The first one is called Starfield. I think everyone knows who that's by. That's Bethesda Studio or Bethesda Softworks. That's going to be a big title. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that it finally has a new engine, and I think it does. The Elder Scrolls 6, also by Bethesda Softworks, that's going to be huge. And that needs a new engine. I hope we're not going to get a Fallout 76 situation. I doubt it. Halo Infinite, obviously by 343 Industries. We know how big that's going to be. A new Forza, which is probably going to be Forza Motorsport 8 by Turn 10 Studios. And that's probably going to be a launch title for Anaconda. The Call of Duty 2020 by Treyarch. Obviously, that one is going to be running the new engine that's launching on this Call of Duty 2019. The next a major Assassin's Creed title, which is currently rumored to be called Assassin's Creed Ragnarok by Ubisoft. That's going to be amazing looking. Grand Theft Auto 6, currently in development at Rockstar. When we're going to get it, well, we don't know, but hopefully sooner than later. Obviously, sequels to Horizon Zero Dawn, Marvel Spider-Man, and God of War. Hashtag I'm hyped because I like those games very much. Diablo 4 and the sequel to Overwatch are supposedly in development. And it's amazing they can count past 3 because Diablo 3 has been out in every platform. I think your refrigerator can play Diablo 3. I would really like a 4. And pretty much every major annual sports title, your FIFA, your Madden, your 2K, your NBA 2K, and of course MLB The Show. And I want to go to Clowns on this. Clowns, one of the things that I truly miss with console launches is a ton of games to play that are exploiting the power of the console. And to hear that there's at least 10 in development of this stature has me really excited for the next generation because, we buy these $500 consoles. You want to turn them on and you want to put something in the disk drive, if it has a disk drive, or load it up digitally and be wowed. Are you excited that this many games are currently in development and more possibly that we don't know about?
Yeah, I think the next generation we're set to see some really great epic titles. It felt like this generation trickled very slowly.
Yes,
as far
I
as
agree.
releases. And then PlayStation 4 had a burst of a couple of games that were really good in a row. But I think next generation the multi-platform lineup is fantastic.
Yes.
There's one thing I do wish, Boom. I do wish that when next generation launches, I do wish they include a game with the system like they used
Me
to.
Remember? Too, man. Yes, that's great. Great to say that, dude.
You remember when you bought Super Nintendo, got like Super Mario Brothers, and then Super Mario World, and then you bought like the Nintendo Entertainment System, you got like Duck Hunt. I mean, those were cool back then. It felt like an incentive to get the system, and yeah, they were exclusive, but it felt good, and I hope they do something like that again in the future.
I got to be honest with you. I agree 100%. It's been a long time since we had a pack-in game. If you want to give me a digital code, you want to give me an actual game, that's fine. But that actually would be pretty cool. You know what? I mean, look, I'm going to say this. And we're going to talk about actually, I'm not even going to mention it until we get to the topic. I'm going to say this. If you're going to buy the Xbox Anaconda or whatever it's called, and maybe you're new to the Xbox, maybe you haven't, you were a 360 player, you moved over to PlayStation, maybe you're waiting to jump back into Xbox. The way that they do that, the way they can handle it is offer like 3-month subscription to Game Pass Ultimate, and there are 200 games in there. So that would be the ultimate pack-in. You put your new system on and go crazy because you have 200 games to play. I don't know what Sony would actually do in regards to that, but it would be actually cool to have a pack-in game. We haven't had that in a very, very long time. Dreadpool, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, we are in the generation where we saw dots and sticks as graphics, and we've been very privileged to to see the industry grow the way it has. For you personally, are you excited that this many games are already in development for the next generation that's a full 14 or 15 months away?
You mean 1 dot and 2 sticks?
Yeah, 1 dot and 2 sticks. That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I remember that. I'm definitely excited. I mean, every generation you could tell there's a leap from the Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. You see all those leaps that have jumped up. So, and there was a significant leap. Even this generation, there was a significant leap, but it didn't feel like the leap we should have had. And even with the X and the Pro being a half step, it still didn't feel like we've gotten to that good leap like we normally have seen in the past generations. This generation coming up, I do feel like we're going to see it, because everything we've seen, you know, they've had to emulate with powerful PCs.
Yes.
And what we're getting is the next generation technology that even PCs currently do not have, or are in development, or are still ideas. So what we're going to be getting from what we've, you know, obviously been able to gather from all the information and all the news from AMD, Sony, and Microsoft, that, you know, this is where we're headed. So the technology will be there for the leap. Hopefully these games, from what they're showing us, will be ready to make that leap also, so we're not still in last gen.
Yes,
You know,
I agree. That's a great point.
You look at how excuse me, you look at how Red Dead 2, that was in development for so long, they had to simulate HDR.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully we're not there quite yet where we have to simulate some of the stuff, and they can still incorporate the new technologies and the new ideas, you know, software-wise, styling of how to make these games. So we do get that huge leap. Because I remember going from Xbox to the 360 and buying the Call of Duty and going, "Oh my God,
yes,
this looks so real."
Yes.
And then, you know, here you are with Forza going on, you know, Forza 5, you're like, it looks like it's better.
It looks like Forza, right? Yeah.
You know, you didn't really see that. Now, you know, with Forza 7, you're like, wow, this is still real, but there's a lot more stuff going on, but not it was impressive. It just wasn't amazing.
It didn't blow your mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the mind isn't being blown on spending the money we did on the console, you feel a little slightly cheated, I would imagine.
Yes, exactly. And I agree with the you know, we should have some sort of game, and unfortunately I feel that Microsoft's easy way out will be, I don't know why I keep saying Microsoft's, Xbox's easy way out will be to offer Game Pass.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe a month, maybe 3 months. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's unfortunately, that's the way I look at it. It's an easy way out. It'd be nice to have a game, but at the same time, how many consoles need to be packaged with how many different variety of games?
Right. No, you're right.
Don't have the Fallout 76 console. Who bought that?
Probably not many people.
Not many people after all the, you know, there's no one wants to buy it now. You know, even as cheap as it is, no one wants to buy it. Why? I'm going to buy the console anyway. I don't want the game.
Right.
But you pass on it. So it's easier for them to just, here you go. Here's at least 100 games you can play now.
Yeah, it actually makes sense. It makes sense that if they do put a 30-day pass in there, or if they get you know, very generous or creative, they put, you know, 90 days, give you 3 months in there. That would actually be pretty incredible, to be honest with you, and would be able to give the player, said new player or older player, you know, 100 games. And that's, you know, that would be the ultimate pack-in my opinion, especially when you want to try out a new console and you want to see the, you know, the best running stuff. Real quick, before I get to, I have to welcome Slow Mo Backslap. Jumps in at the 1 hour mark. Hey, dude, thanks so much for being here. I know this was super, super last minute, but 3 people called out at the last minute, and thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, no problem at all. I just so happened to be working from home today, so for me it was just like, hey, boom, it's no question. You need any help? You need another voice? You need someone to come in
The
here
voice of
and
reason,
stir
as you're
some stuff
known.
up? Yeah, I can do that for you.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. So I'm going to get your opinion on this next, Slow-Mo, but let me just talk to Zemi real quick. Zemi,
Okay.
listen, when we buy these consoles, we want to be impressed, right? We want to be blown away. And if for me personally, like for instance, when the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 came out, back in those days when I was working as a New York City police officer, I used to do overtime for games. I didn't do overtime. The guys at the station used to make fun of me all the time. Like I would do ridiculous amounts of overtime, and people would be like, "Where are you going? You going on vacation? You're buying a new car? You're putting down on a house?" Nope, I'm working for games. And it was hilarious, but that's what I did. So back in those days, if you remember the Xbox 360 launch, I think it launched like with 17 games. Well, guess what? I bought the console, 2 extra controllers, and every launch title I got. And I actually miss that. I really do miss that because you want the new console to play the new games. And I mean, last generation, we didn't get it as good as I thought we should have. I think I'm very excited to see what Sony is releasing as well as Microsoft. Microsoft, we know it's going to be Halo and Motorsport, but that's all we know right now. Sony, we don't know anything. Like, we don't know, is it going to be Horizon Zero Dawn 2? Is it going to be Ghost of Tsushima? Is it going to be something that we didn't know was coming? So it's going to be very interesting. But for you, as someone that's probably going to buy the next console, are you excited to know that this many games are already currently in development for the new hardware?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm so pumped. It's ridiculous. Obviously I'm more excited for certain games than others. I'm a huge Bethesda fan. As far as Elder Scrolls goes, I cannot wait for that game. I can't wait for Starfield because I'm super interested in that. I really want to see what their big plans are for that, because I was a big fan of Mass Effect, and from my understanding, Starfield is like Elder Scrolls but in like space with like multiple planets and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about all these new games and the new hardware, and it's kind of like Christmas, right? Because just like a new system,
Yes.
new everything, better graphics, a fast system that that is hopefully like the load times are going to be a lot lower and everything. I really cannot wait. And then one thing, you guys were talking about games packed into consoles. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Halo Infinite be packed in with an Xbox console, because they're both coming out on the same day. And then I would also say that they'll probably put like a 1-month code to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in there. Or maybe like a trial version. They usually just like put in trial versions into the systems.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they put Halo Infinite in there, because for all the people who don't have Game Pass that are going to be buying a console, then they can get a game for free. For people like us that are subscribed to Game Pass, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I just give the code away to a friend that doesn't have Game Pass. But yeah, I mean, and I don't think it would cost Xbox really anything to throw Halo Infinite in there, because I mean, they could just throw in a digital code and it's not really gonna cost them a whole lot, I don't really think. But yeah, I'm super excited, and I'm gonna start praying to the altar in my closet of Todd Howard, because I really want Starfield to be a holiday 2020 release, because I want to get my hands on a really good open world single player Bethesda game so bad. I mean, I'm super pumped for that game, and I can't wait. But yeah, I mean, I find myself saying this all the time, but part of me really thinks that 2020 might possibly be the best year for gaming so far.
Well, I mean, listen, 2 new consoles and a bunch of games coming out. You might be correct in saying so. It's been a long time since we've had 2 big launches, and we do know that a lot of big games are going to be coming out. So yes, I mean, we already know that February, March, and those 2 months are already starting to get packed with games from 2020, and we know that May is another big, quite a few big ones. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where 2020 goes, but it could very well be. I mean, 2019, in my opinion, has been probably the best gaming year in a long, long time with the amount of titles. But I'm very interested to see what 2020 is going to bring. And Slomo, before I get to you, KS Sante with the outstanding $10 super chat. He says from SD to HD was major, but from 1080p to 4K wasn't that drastic from the average user's perspective. That's a great comment. The next gen will be more about complex worlds, not so much visuals. So set expectations accordingly. Great point. Really great point. First of all, thanks so much for the outstanding generosity, and thanks for being here, dude. I really appreciate it. And Slow-Mo, this particular topic was basically referring to the fact that there was a list of games that are at least 10 big games are in development currently for the next gen consoles, and I'll read them out real quick for you just in case you didn't hear them.
Okay.
Starfield, The Elder Scrolls 6, Halo Infinite, a new Forza game, next year's Call of Duty by Treyarch, the next major Assassin's Creed game, which is going to be AC Ragnarok, apparently, Grand Theft Auto 6 by Rockstar, sequels to Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, and God of War, Diablo 4, and a sequel to Overwatch, which apparently is in development, and every major's annual sports game that goes from FIFA, Madden, the NBA 2K, and MLB The Show. For you as a gamer who appreciates tech, like I know that you're a techie kind of a guy because it's your job. So you not only need to know the tech, but you also appreciate it, especially in the gaming space. For you personally, are you excited that this many next generation games are in development to take advantage of the PS5 and the Xbox2?
I am. It's like I am, and I'm also not. And I say I'm not quite sure. And usually we see this every new console generation where the developers, whether they be first party or third party, are still getting used to the hardware, still trying to test the limits of what they can really do. And so usually in the beginning of a gen, you'll see some games that look slightly or somewhat better than last gen, but then it isn't until you get to like mid to later gen that you really start to see.
Yeah, usually by year two.
Yeah, you really start to see the huge difference. So like, and I know this might really upset some Bethesda fans, but Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. But I am Bethesda's insistence to keep using the same engine and just
supposedly it's going to be a new one. Let's hope.
Okay, all right. I'm going to. We'll see about that.
It's probably going to be an updated version.
Right. Yeah,
updated. It's new, but it's really just been updated every year or every like couple of years.
Yeah, but see, they're updating stuff graphically, but on the visual side, but they're not upgrading the part of the engine that needs the most work, like the logic part.
Hey, let's get that jank out of there, please.
Yeah, get the jank out of there. All your games are buggy as hell. So like that's for me that kind of makes like, all right, that game that I don't care too much about, but Halo Infinite, Horizon 2, the next Assassin's Creed, all those games are games I'm looking forward to. I can't wait to take a look at and play. And I mean, just in general, I'm always excited for what's coming in the future. Tech wise, I like what I'm hearing about no load times.
Yes,
that's
ridiculous.
That's going to be for some of these games. Like imagine playing Anthem with no load times. That's like half the play time that you had that
waiting.
Night out the door. So I'm really looking forward to that. But it's I'm still also excited for what's coming now. And just not to go a little off topic, but I mean, I was just talking last night to the Ash and Luca and a couple other guys on the Xbox Live Party chat, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do this year. There's so many games coming out now that like I'm just really not too focused on next year. They're like my Switch is going to get a ton of work this summer.
Yeah. Yep.
There's Fire Emblem 3 Houses, there's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Astral Chain, all this before September. There's Borderlands 3,
right.
There's Gears 5, there's Control coming out. I'm like, and then you get into October and November, you got your next Call of Duty. I don't really care about Call of Duty, but whatever. You got Death Stranding, walking, FedEx Simulator, whatever that is thing going on. It's so many games. There's Star Wars coming out. It's just like, I just, and my backlog's crazy. So for me, it's just like, you know what? I'm glad these games are still far off because I just don't have the time to play them right now. It's gonna be crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, two things with that with that many games coming out: one, time; two, money. Right? I mean, you only have so much of both.
Yeah, and then early next year,
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Ori 2, Final Fantasy 7 remake. I know I'm missing a whole bunch, but there's it's like February and March. It's like every week there's a banger dropping.
Yeah. Well, that part of the year has become the fall of what we're normally used to.
Right.
Well, I'm going to say this: it's going to be it's definitely going to be very interesting to see where it goes. I cannot wait for the next hardware for both. I'm again, we you missed it. We talked about the tariffs and how that could possibly affect people buying both consoles because because the price may go through the roof. You may have to you may have to pick one, or you may not be able to get any of them depending on what your financial situation is. But I want to move on to the next topic, and this is normally we talk about this stuff on the Xbox Factor podcast, but because Breakfast with Boom does work with all three consoles, I want to talk about Xbox, more specifically Phil Spencer, talking about giving Halo, Forza, and other first-party teams the needed time to make great games, and he confirms that Microsoft is giving them a chance to think through their plans. Now, this story I pulled from GameSpot. Basically, Microsoft's E3 briefing this year was missing a few things some people might have expected. Forza Motorsport by Turn 10 did not show up, and I kind of expected that because that's going to be a launch title for the next Xbox, and we're going to see that in a big way next E3. Obviously, the Microsoft's new studio, The Initiative, didn't have anything to show. That was a little disappointing, but expected as well. And the rumored Fable game not showing up even in just like a mock-up of a like I said, pull a Metroid Prime 4, throw up a screen that says Fable, and have someone from whatever studio is working on it come out and say, folks, listen, I'm so-and-so from Playground Games that we think is making the game. And even though we have nothing to show you, I want to assure everyone that's watching this, that's sitting here, that we heard the cries. Fable is coming back in a big way, and that's all we have, and walk off the stage. And people would have just went crazy. But, these games were missed by many Xbox gamers. And most of these acquisitions happened at E3 2018, which is only 1 year removed from almost to the day of when E3 2019 took place. So to be fair, expecting them to have something to show with a sense of quality would be a bit of a stretch. And definitely one of the major complaints from the first-party titles in 2018 was the lack of quality. Now, regardless of what they've looked like now, in their initial release, a lot of people had complaints with them. And of course, I'm talking about Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2, both games, which I think are amazing. And of course, Crackdown 3 in early 2019, like it, love it, or hate it. I actually enjoyed Crackdown 3, single player. I didn't care too much for the multiplayer, but I'm a selfish gamer, so I like single player experiences. But Phil Spencer has explained why Microsoft focused more on the games coming out closer to the future than those that they could show further out. He also stated that he was proud that 12 of the 14 first-party titles that were shown off at Microsoft's E3 were shipping in the next 12 months. And he said this: we are really able to focus on what's coming out now, which I think is awesome. And then he continued with, and when I think about the studios, where's the Initiative? Where was Forza Motorsport Studio Turn 10? Where was Playground's second team? He obviously knows that they're working on it, and it just isn't ready to talk about the stuff. So I want to go to Clowns first on this. Look, we understand that one of the major Achilles heels for Microsoft in this generation has been the lack of super quality first-party titles. And we understand that, the three major pillars, which of course are Turn 10 Studios with their Forza, 343 with Halo, and the Coalition with Gears. in a story that was released late last week, I believe, Phil Spencer basically talked about having put extra pressure on these three studios to deliver on time and not giving them the room to fix games before their launch because they just didn't have the studios. Are you happy as a gamer, not just as an Xbox gamer, but as a gamer fan, that now with all the studio acquisitions, they now have total of 15 first-party studios? Are you happy to know that each team, very similar to Sony's development teams, are just going to be given as much time as they need to get the game right and make it look amazing?
Yeah, I think that's a positive thing. I don't think anybody should be worried about it. I mean, it's great because we're going to get better quality games to play. The only thing that is the downfall of that is just being impatient and wanting to play stuff now. But we saw what happened with Sea of Thieves. Like you said, it was a beautiful game that came out, but it was lackluster in content. And as a big Sea of Thieves fan, I agree with you, Boom, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, listen, there were some disappointments for me, and I want to give a shout out to Toby G's in the chat. He goes, I don't know about anyone, but I want a new banjo game. Yeah, I was actually, it was one of my if I had to make a list of disappointments, that was one of them. That Nintendo got a banjo announcement for Smash Brothers, which I think is amazing. I think it's amazing for the fans, for Nintendo, for the for the franchise. But the Xbox fans did not get a Banjo-Kazooie announcement, which I thought was imminent, to be honest with you. But I'm happy to know that that the subpar development of games coming out as first-party games could be at the end of its rope, and that being that they have this many studios, they can focus on quality. Dreadpool, I want to get your opinion on this. You obviously are an Xbox fan, and regardless of whether or not Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, or even State of Decay 2 was or is your cup of tea, so to speak, are you happy to know that because of the the extension of first parties, they're going to actually be able to give these developers as much time as they need to put out quality titles?
It's all trash. No, I'm kidding. No, it's definitely those games were good games for when they came out. They just weren't, they didn't have the time. And obviously Phil saw it, and everybody complained about Sea of Thieves. It's such a great game, but it's missing this, it's missing that. A game like Sea of Thieves is such a vast game that you really can't include everything from the get-go. Right. And you never know. And that was part of their thing, was this is your story. So as you go through and you develop your pirate legend, or at least work your way towards it, not all of us have made it there yet. Some of us have. I have not. I'm still trying. But, they've given you something more to look forward to. Okay, well, we've been able to do this. Okay, so they're adding more to it. So that part, I see where everybody's complaining, but at the same time, I think they're a little... Some people are just jumping on the bandwagon just to complain. Same thing with State of Decay. They were expecting more. They didn't get it. But at the same time, they probably had a deadline. How long can you be working on a game? So even these newer games that are going to have this lifespan of development, there's still a lifespan. There's still a dead date. They have to finish. Yeah. You can't just work on a game. I mean, what was it? Duke Nukem.
Right.
How long was that one played out for?
Final Fantasy 15, 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Duke Nukem Forever sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was supposed to be such a great game, and it fell apart. So yes, they need time to develop and cultivate that culture of that game to bring out the essence of what they want to bring to you. You may not feel that it's complete, but as long as the developer says, hey, this is my artistic work, this is complete. You're painting on a canvas. When you say I'm done, I'm done.
Right.
If anybody else says, oh, there needs to be an extra tree in there, it looks a little plain in that little corner. So what? That's your opinion. This is the artist's rendition of what they want to make. So, if he says, hey, look, it's going to be paint by numbers, and I'm just going to do so many numbers, and then you tell me, or the remaining numbers, what color you want to put in there, then that's how it goes. But that's their idea, aka Sea of Thieves. Now, if they can actually develop a good storyline, make sure all the modeling's correct, actually work on getting the glitches out before the game's released, not working on, okay, well, here you go, game's released. You guys that are first buying it, or if it goes into Game Pass, which all all Xbox games will be going into Game Pass. You guys are our beta testers for the first 6 months until we can make it better. That's wrong. They need to put the time down and invest into it to make it a good game upon release. So that way, day one, when you put that game in, it doesn't matter if you put it in disc or stream it. Stream it, download it, or hey, even back when into the future, if we are playing on xCloud, you're streaming it.
Right.
So when you start playing that game, day one, you have a good outlook on that game. If the game sucks, it's gonna suck. But if the game's a good game, day one, you're not gonna be like, it's a good game, but I had all these glitches. I'd fall through the floor, or I got shot up into the sky. No, you don't have any of that. You minimize it. I mean, you're going to have something. There's always going to be some sort of code that just didn't sit right. And you're going to have something like that, the weird faces or the eyeballs. But you want to minimize that. So you got to have the time to build the game right. Make sure that your story's from the get-go what you want to create and portray in your game. You want to bring the player with you,
right?
Not, hey, come along, but watch this crazy stuff.
No, makes sense.
That's not part of the game. So yeah, we definitely need a little bit more patience with these games to come out. We need, and I'm glad Microsoft, or why do I keep saying Microsoft? Xbox and Phil Spencer are giving these developers the time that they need. These studios have time to make the good game that they want to make and the good games that we want to play.
Right. No, well, definitely like I said, the first party studio games that were coming out in this generation. I mean, in the beginning of the generation, I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed Rise. I enjoyed Sunset. I enjoyed, Quantum Break. I actually really enjoyed Recore, but obviously we know what happened with that game. Before I get to Zemi's opinion on this, I have to thank JD Gamer for the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, I think that MS still needs 2 to 4 more AAA studios to make additional #pillars pillar franchises. What do you folks on the panel in the chat think? I agree. I think that when you say AAA, I don't want to say that what they've already picked up are not AAA, because you look at Obsidian, they're AAA developer. You look at some of the other ones that they've picked up. Ninja Theory. I think Ninja Theory is a AAA developer. They just didn't have the AAA funding. Now they do. Zemi, in your opinion, and you play the Xbox exclusively, so that's your go-to console. You do have the PC, but the Xbox is pretty much your main console that you play on. Are you happy to know that Phil Spencer understands what made this generation so hard for not only the platform but its fans regarding the quality of first party, and that their studios are going to be given the time that they need to bring out these bangers that we've been asking for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to hear that, and I think that Phil is definitely putting his first party games in a good direction, because Sea of Thieves on release, the game's completely different now. If you don't like the gameplay of it, that's one thing. But, whenever it first released, there was a complete lack of content. State of Decay 2 was a buggy mess, in my opinion. And
it was.
3, the campaign was way too short. It took about 8 hours for me to complete that. And I did a lot of the, like the side stuff, like collecting orbs and stuff like that. And then the multiplayer didn't allow for like friend matchmaking, which is, it's 2019. What were you thinking? So all 3 of those games, I think, were rushed, or they didn't spend enough time. I mean, they definitely did not spend enough time on QA, on quality, assurance and whatnot. So I think it's definitely a great idea to put more time into the games, because there really is no excuse to release a game that is, buggy as heck or is lacking content. And it's just, it might be slightly disappointing for a lot of us fans that really want a Fable game. E3 was okay in my opinion. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't absolutely amazing, it was the best that it could be, I think. But I really kind of wish that they would have showed off a Fable game, but they're just not ready. And I would much rather play the best version of a game on release than the best version of a game 12 months after its release. And like the entire audience for that game has pretty much transitioned to something else. So I think it's very, very important. And I think there's really two very, very important things for Xbox going forward with their first party games. The first one is quality. I mean, that's
Right.
a huge thing. Early on in this generation, the quality was there with Quantum Break and many of the other titles. But I think the second thing that's really important is the timing of your game, to make sure that you have a major release coming out every single season, I think is very important as well.
That's a great point.
By giving these companies more time, I think they're going to be able to accomplish both of those.
That's a really great point. One of the there's only so many Achilles heel you have as a person, right? A human being has two. Microsoft has quite a few. And one of their other Achilles heels, one of their issues for me personally has been marketing. As Jesus Christmas, man. It is just the stuff that they do just makes me scratch my head. It makes me want to work.
Abysmal.
Well, it has been abysmal. Makes me want to put on my hat. I'll make Xbox great again. Hire BoomStick for marketing. If anyone's from Microsoft is listening, I need a job. So I would love to work. This is my dream job, to work for Microsoft. And I know what the fans want. Listen, I'll even tempt. Let me get my shoe in the door, but I guarantee you're going to like my idea. Slow-mo, I want to get to your opinion on this, because obviously you said what you said. Listen, Phil Spencer's a smart dude. I really like that he's in charge. I think he's a good fit for what he does. He's politically correct. Everyone says, oh, yeah, he's a kumbaya candle guy. You know what? It's okay to be a nice guy, okay? Stop it with everyone has to be a dick. No one has to be a dick. I like his style. I like what he does. I like the way he talks when he speaks about the brand. For you, are you happy to know that him as a leader understands where their shortcomings were? They're addressing these issues on a daily and weekly basis by buying new studios, giving all of their teams the proper time not to rush a game out just to get a game on the shelf. Are you happy to hear that?
I am happy to hear that, but then I also still have my reservations.
Okay.
And my reservations, for example, with State of Decay 2, that game needed like 6 more months of post-production, bug testing, and quality assurance. They needed to get those bugs out. They needed people to be able to, find all that stuff, so that we weren't like having thousands of video clips on Twitter of I think someone mentioned about hitting a rock in your car flying in the air like in an action movie. Like, that happened to me multiple times, and I'm just like, yo, what? What's going on with the game physics in this game? Like, things like that need to be taken care of, especially on the co-op aspect. But my concern is that Microsoft does not, or Xbox Game Studios is giving them creative freedom, but not giving them any kind of relevant feedback. And I bring that up because I think it was either Matt Booty or Phil Spencer brought up Sea of Thieves and saying that, well, all the content that we got in the past year wouldn't have been available without the feedback of the gamers telling them, hey, we need more content. Hey, we need more this and that. And that's why you get campaign, like PvP modes and all kind of other stuff that Sea of Thieves has now. I disagree. I think that you don't need a bunch of gamers to tell you that Sea of Thieves launched with no content. You look at the game and you're just like, okay, so what am I supposed to do in this game? There are 3 different fetch quests and that's it. You have a lack of content. Yeah. And that should have been something that should have been noted by Xbox producers who were working with Rare and knowing what they were making years in advance. Yeah. Like, you don't need to hear from us that this game doesn't have content. How do you not know what your community is looking for? With State of Decay 2, I don't think, and I think some of these the decisions that Undead Labs made were due to being a second party developer, not having all the resources that being a first party developer would provide. But they made a lot of decisions like with the tethering, and they even said that was so that, like, say 5 years from now, if Undead Labs isn't around to do maintenance on the game, then yeah, you know, you can still do co-op and it's not going to be a problem, because we wouldn't be around to pay for the servers to provide that. I understand the decisions with that, but then there are other decisions with like dynamic storytelling. They were really boasting about that, but I felt that really hindered the game. And I'm a State of Decay fan. I love the first game. I enjoyed, you know, going up against the Wilkersons in the first game. If anyone remembers them, I enjoyed making sure that my Marcus survived. And State of Decay fans know what I'm talking about getting Marcus to survive to the end. Not that he's a bad player, but just that you would get into this thing where a lot of people would over rely on him because he's like the most capable survivor that you have, and then you can really end up getting him killed. You know, I'm getting into the weeds, but regardless, the story, yes, it's exactly what Toby is saying. State of Decay 1 had more story, and it's because they were static characters who were written with more layers and it had story beats. And unfortunately, that's not really what happened with State of Decay 2. They had this dynamic storytelling where, and they did this so that you could have a bunch of content, but without actually having to put in the work to make all that content work in a linear way. And the reason why it didn't work in State of Decay 2, so I have two perfect examples. One, I'm ignoring all the communities around me. I'm just caring about my community,
right?
My people at my little church that I'm in, trying to make them survive. I got this group down the road in the house who is begging me every 5 minutes for water and food, and I'm ignoring them. They finally send me a message. Next time I see you, it's on. I'm like, okay, all right. Well, next time I see you, I'm gonna pull my guns. Cool. Then I get a message like an hour later. Hey, we have a dispute. Can you come help with this dispute? And I'm like, wait, what? This is where dynamic storytelling is a problem.
Yeah.
Because they created this story beat where another community will come to you and ask you to resolve a dispute between two people, and you have to make a decision for them. But they dynamically chose a community that I had zero relationship with whatsoever. And it makes no sense for them to come to me, the person that they hate because I never give them food or water, to ask me to settle a dispute for them. Another example, and everyone who played the game had dealt with this, where you get a distress call from a home, you go to the home and it's an ambush. I literally came just from out of this house. I cleaned the house out. There was no one there. I drive down the road. I get a distress call at the same house. I'm like, what? Someone's there?
That breaks the immersion of you playing the game and enjoying the story they're trying to tell.
Exactly. And so like they implemented it better in the first game because you had static characters with static story beats that happened that were triggered by certain things you did at certain times. But I assume that took longer to do than what they did in the second game. And I think that's something that Microsoft should have looked at and said, you know what, I don't think this is going to work for what you're trying to do here. I don't think this is going to be something that gamers are going to enjoy, especially ones who played the first game. And I know multiple people who felt the same way about that. And so there are things like that I wonder if Xbox Game Studios is giving them good feedback. And when I say good feedback, and I know people are going to be loath to hear me say this, but Sony gave Sony Santa Monica great feedback.
Yeah, dude, they crushed the developer.
Exactly. They destroyed. They said this is trash. This is horrible. Do better. As Kratos was saying,
what they made.
Be better.
Yeah,
Don't say sorry. Be better. Right?
Yeah.
Now that game became Game of the Year. It's like you have to be able to give them some tough some tough love, some feedback to make the game better. It shouldn't come from us after the game is out that this was a bad approach. That was a bad idea. Maybe you should have made some more content. Those kind of things need to come from the producers whose job is to make sure this game is the best it could possibly be before it comes out. And that's all. I mean, that's where I am with. I'm great. It's great that they give them the time. I'm so happy about that. But I'm
they need
still
to be a little bit more hands-on. Is what you're saying, though, right?
Say what?
They need to be a little bit more hands-on.
Yes. And as FC Violent, what's up, FC? In the chat, you said quality control.
Nice.
That is
good point,
where
FC. Nice.
That is exactly where I am with them. Where I am great with everything else, the quality control is where I'm kind of iffy with, and especially when they say things like, "Oh, see if these wouldn't be the game it is today. There's no way for it to have been better at launch." With everything that's in there today. And I'm just like, look, I mean, do you need to get some of us on the panel or in the chat as a producer to tell you information that clearly
I'm still waiting for the phone to ring. I'm ready to be hired.
One of us up. Clearly, because who you got on staff apparently don't play games well enough to know that that wasn't enough content. Come on, bro.
Yeah, no, that's actually silly. You're absolutely right. Real quick, before we move on to the next topic, I have to thank, I think the name is Vedger, with the outstanding $10 super chat. He says, criticism is necessary, especially from a CEO. As creative director, you have to listen to constructive criticism, even if it points out flaws in your profession, and you may need to drop your ego to fix it. That's a great point. That's exactly what Slow-Mo was actually talking about. You need someone that's going to tell you, hey, this sucks, and you have to fix it. Because like I said, look, this is a multi-plat channel as well as a show. And I know that some people are tired of hearing about God of War, and I'm sorry if it bores you. I don't mean to do it to pick, to make the show boring for you. But if you ever want to see something incredible, you want to see an absolutely outstanding documentary. It's a documentary that Raising Kratos is something you should watch. Even if you're not a Sony fan, just to get the peek behind the curtain of what goes on and what happened during the development of this game will blow your mind. And that's exactly what happened. Cory Barlog talks about being crushed by the head of Sony, who came and saw the game and said, "This is terrible. You have to, we can't put this out. You have to fix this." And they did fix it. But could you imagine you're told by the head of Sony, your work sucks. You've been working on for 3 years. It's terrible. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I want to segue into the next topic. Of course, it involves Sony. That's why I said it's a segue. And according to this article, PlayStation 5 will and beyond will push PlayStation Now in big ways moving forward, leading me to believe that Sony's version of Game Pass Ultimate will be coming sooner than later. And I've been calling for this. Now, listen, if you've been following me or sub to my channel, I've been a huge fan of Sony's first-party games. They're everything that I love about gaming. Strong, single-player, story-driven, adult-themed games that have me investing 30-plus hours. Now, I know that the words one and done, that's like a big thing for their games. Well, you know what? Those one-and-done games get me 50 hours of play, and I really, truly enjoy them. But we're not talking about their games per se. Obviously, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, in my opinion, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I've been calling for PS Now to change in the way that offers Sony's first-party games to be their day and date. They could add tons of more PlayStation 4 first-party games than they have now. And I think there's maybe 30 of them. PlayStation 4 games. It's not a huge list. It's not the games that I want. I would love for day and date first party games because that would be amazing for me. But as you know, or you may not know, PlayStation Now has failed to really make an impact. There are currently only 700,000 subscribers since it launched in 2015. And when you kind of look at what Microsoft is doing with Ultimate Game Pass, they have millions of subscribers in literally half the time. We haven't even hit the 2-year mark yet when it comes to Xbox Game Pass. I think that's later on in the summer. And in an interview with Financial Times, which is where I pulled this story from, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan confirmed that PlayStation Now will be a big part of PlayStation's future this year, the PlayStation next year with the PlayStation 5 and beyond. And this is some of his quotes. Now, I know a lot of people don't care about Jim Ryan. I don't either, because the guy, listen, whatever, he is who he is. But he had some interesting things to say in this interview. He said, "We obviously have seen the trend in other forms of entertainment towards the mass adoption of streaming as it means to accessing content. It would seem likely, very likely, that gaming will follow that trend." And he continues with, "We are getting more confident with the PlayStation Now service, and we are really going to start to push it hard this year and in the years to follow. With Sony's recent partnership with Microsoft, obviously they're going to use their Azure infrastructure, and should be another sign that Sony is looking to get really into streaming and in the future of digital distribution." Again, the writing's on the wall. So here's my question to the panel, of course, to the chat. Sony's partnership with Microsoft and them publicly talking about the streaming future. I'm all for a Game Pass type service for the PlayStation 5. In fact, I'm really hoping they bundle PlayStation Now along with PlayStation Plus. I say sign me up right now. So I want to go to Clowns on this first. Listen, like I said, the writing's on the wall. I think the financial numbers are there. They cannot be faked. Microsoft is making money hand over fist with Game Pass. It's an extremely consumer friendly service. It does not beat you over the head, and what you're getting for the price it cannot be matched. For you, I don't know if you have a PlayStation 4 or you're going to buy a PlayStation 5. Would you like to see Sony adopt the same ideology and have like an ultimate PlayStation Pass?
Yeah, I think that's something that they needed for a long time. But I think the biggest problem that we've seen with PS Now was the latency issues that it had. And then on top of that, the price. Like, I mean, Game Pass when it launched was what, $9.99?
Yeah, $10.
And PS Now is $20. I mean, that's still out of the mind of most consumers. Maybe if they bundle it properly, kind of like what Xbox did, more people will adapt to it. But yeah, it really needs to take on more of a model like Game Pass.
Well, I mean, pricing is the key, right? I mean, obviously, when PlayStation Now first launched, it's much better now. But if you remember, they were like rent a game, $20 for a month or something like that. And I'm like, what? Rent a game to $20? I'll go to a Redbox, or I'll go buy the game for $5 or $10 at GameStop or at a mom and pop place. So yeah, pricing is definitely, they're going to have to fix the pricing issue. What it is now, I personally don't think it's worth it for what you're getting. For $20 a month, you're getting a ton of PS1, ton of PS2 games. That's great if you like classic stuff. But they're not getting day and date PlayStation 4 games, and the PlayStation 4 games they are getting are of the older quality, especially when it comes to their first party stuff, which should be in there in abundance. But Dreadpool, I want to get your opinion on this. Now, obviously, I'm not sure if you have a PlayStation 4 or are considering buying a PlayStation 5 in the future of next year. But as a person who has Game Pass and sees the value that comes along with the $15 a month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and what you're essentially getting, would you like to see Sony do something similar so their fan base could get first party games day and date?
I do have Ultimate.
Nice.
When they first offered it to the Tier 1 alphas, I chose not to because of the wording that they said, that I was going to be locked down and I wouldn't be able to get out. And I was like, well, what if I want to stop Game Pass? So I decided not to. And then when they announced it at E3 and I found out more information, I went ahead and jumped in because, I mean, I was already maxed out as it was for the most part on both of them.
Nice.
So I was like, for $1, all right, whatever. So, yeah, and then finding out even more information about being able to get the Ultimate Editions of the games day one downloaded. You can't beat that. That's awesome. On the PlayStation side, I do have a modded PlayStation, an unmodded PlayStation. I've got a PlayStation 3 because I completely skipped PlayStation 2. I did not want anything with it. supposedly it was the emotion engine. I saw no emotion. I just saw a blank stare. I was like, forget this. And then the PlayStation 3, I ended up earning it on my travel points.
Nice.
So I didn't even buy it. I just traveling and staying at hotels. So
That's great.
you know,
That's awesome.
so I was like, yeah, I got a PlayStation 3, but I didn't even have to buy it. But you know, yet again, I'm only playing God of War and Uncharted and a couple other handful of games.
Right.
Everything else has been on Xbox, because even with the friends that I did have, nobody talked to each other. We didn't talk to each other for anything on PlayStation.
Right.
And it was free. And I'm like, you know, but yet I talked to everybody on Xbox. So PS4, when it came out, I was like, oh, you got to pay money for this now? I'm already doing this on Xbox. I'm not going to do this twice. I'm not double dipping it just to talk to nobody. So
Right.
I held off. And this past Christmas, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to buy one. And I held off. And, you know, on the one side, I'm still kicking myself in the head because I could have got that Spider-Man $200 edition.
Yeah.
$200. All right, cool. You know, I can go back and play the PS4 games that I've been missing out on. And now with PS5, I'm still looking at it because it has the back compatibility.
Yes.
But at first, the way that Sony was talking was you put in a disc and it'll simulate. It'll read the disc and tell the disc that it simulates the console that it thinks that it should be. So I'm looking at it as, oh wow, I can start playing Siphon Filter from my PlayStation 1 days. And
Maybe.
It seems like it's not going to be that way. It's still a possibility, but it's just going to be PS4. So I'm like, all right, well, it's still a bonus for me. I could still get PlayStation 5 games and still get some of the PlayStation 4 games that I've been missing. So I'm like, it's a bonus feature there. But yet again, with the pricing and all this, I'm not sure if that's the route I'm going. But if I do get it, I'm not sure I'm going to be double dipping again
In another service.
with another service. Yeah. And that for anybody that has PlayStation, I think that would be a great thing if they would mimic what Microsoft does. You know, if you can get your brand new God of War or Uncharted or whatever other game that's coming out, brand new day and date, why not?
Yeah, I agree.
It's a good investment in that aspect. If I had more money, I had less responsibilities. You know, 10 years ago, I would have been all about it. I'm like, okay, cool. It's a great deal. Let's do this. Right now, you know, I'm kind of wait and see.
Well, I mean, listen, we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing. There's been little to no information on I mean, we've gotten some information in regards to specs of the PlayStation 5, but their infrastructure and service ideology, we don't know. And we're probably going to find out, you know, throughout the remainder of this year. You know, obviously come January, it's going to be serious, where now we're talking, you know, it's 10 months to launch, 11 months to launch. So it's going to be, it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping, I really am. Like I said, I really truly enjoy the PlayStation 4. I buy every one of their first party games. I think they're fantastic. And again, being the selfish gamer who enjoys single player games, they're right up my alley. But it would be really cool not to have to spend $60 every time one of them comes out. It would be great if they offered Game Pass where you can have a lot of their classic games in, you know, again, like you know, I don't know if it's going to be 200 games, but it would be nice to have a service from Sony that had 100 games in there that range from different years or, you know, generations, as well as, you know, their new titles day and date. You know, Zemi, before I get your opinion on this, I have to thank Vedger again with another outstanding $10 super chat. He says Game Pass is a great idea, but would people want to get locked into GameStop for a week for $60 and have access to all of those trash trade-in games, low quality games, and pay $60 and go out with God of War 2? I mean, the answer would be, of course, no. But if Sony follows or mimics, you know, Microsoft's successful Game Pass, where it's priced correctly, you got to remember, you know, digital service or services has been around for a while, and it's gonna continue to increase. And like I said, I think that a lot of the fan base, which are mostly casual gamers, right? Like most of Sony's fan base of the near 100 million, I want to say probably 75-80% are casual gamers that maybe buy 2 games a year. And the reason why that is because it's the cool system. It's the popular system. It's well branded. It's well, the marketing is tremendous. So the cool marketing, the well marketed system is going to sell to the masses, and the masses, unfortunately, are the regular folks. The diehard gamers only make up maybe 15% of each market. But Zemi, I want to get your opinion. Like I said, I know that you have an Xbox. That's your go-to system. But in your opinion, as someone that does have a channel, that does report on the news, that does do videos, would you like to see the Sony fan base get something as significant as Game Pass, but just for the Sony brand?
Boom, I'm gonna be honest with you, buddy. I'm about to live my best life.
Okay.
Yeah, because PlayStation Now, you can actually download a PlayStation Now app on a PC.
On the PC, well, there you go. Yes, okay.
And play that way. And then also Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human, I believe, are all
They're
three
all
the Epic
PC.
Store.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm about to live my best life. But so I don't even need to buy a PlayStation 5 if Sony does good with PlayStation Now, and I really hope that they do. I had a PlayStation 4 earlier on in this generation, and I tried out PlayStation Now, and in my opinion, it was a joke. It really was. I don't know how they've changed it in the future, but back then it was all streaming. I believe it still is all streaming, but also back then, I think the only way that you could actually access the games were paying to rent them for like 4 hours, 7 days, or like,
it was ridiculous. It was a terrible pricing system.
Yeah, and the pricing system was all wrong. And whenever you're trying to play games on there, games would constantly buffer, and I had a good internet connection. I had about 50 download at the time, which should be good enough, I think. But games would always buffer, and like they would dip down in quality and get kind of blurry sometimes, and it just wasn't a very good experience. And I think the smartest thing for them to do is redo all of PlayStation Now, adopt a lot of what Xbox is doing, like take a peek in their notebook, if you will. It's great that that the service allows you to stream games, but I think it's also a necessity almost that you should be allowed to download the games as well as streaming them. And I don't think that's currently an option. And I think that they should definitely go in that direction. I think that they should remove all the rental service thing if that's how they currently do it. And I think that they should also match Xbox's price. And then also, like what you guys were saying, have your exclusives come to PlayStation Now day and date. I think that that's a really big requirement because, just having all of these really, not so good older first party games and older games in general. I mean, that's no one's really interested in that. I mean, maybe a few people, but your core audience, that wants new games to play and stuff like that aren't really going to dive into that. And I think that's a big reason why we've seen Game Pass blow up is because all first party games are coming there. And generally speaking, most of the games that come on Game Pass are pretty good quality games. They might come to Game Pass a couple of months after release, like we saw with Metro Exodus. But yeah, I think PlayStation has a lot of work to do on PlayStation Now, and I think that the partnership with Microsoft, being able to use their Azure servers, is going to help them a tremendous amount. And I think PlayStation is going in this direction. I think it's just time to move the massive ship kind of thing. They need to do a lot of work on just making sure everything works. Basically, I mean, because whenever they announce the name changes, I mean, PlayStation just doesn't have that good of like software of like an operating system on their consoles and stuff. They have a lot of hiccups whenever like the name change came out. A lot of people were having issues, so I think PlayStation has a lot of issues to kind of resolve along those sides of things, but I think eventually we will see PlayStation Now turning into more of what Game Pass is like, and I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it would benefit the platform. I mean, listen, you say whatever you want about whether you like Sony or you hate them. They've done very well this generation. But I think that the one thing that they're lacking, like you were saying, is this PlayStation Now service. It has been very lackluster, to say the least. It launched 4 years ago, and it only has acquired 700,000 subscriptions. That's pretty poor compared to the amount of people that actually buy and own a PlayStation 4. And if you look at Microsoft's numbers, you again, if you want to go crazy and say there's 45 million consoles out there, I'd agree with you on that. But they have millions upon millions of subscribers to Game Pass because, quite frankly, it is the best deal in gaming, second to none. And it would really, really benefit Sony to adopt something similar, because obviously they would get more money, more revenue. Hopefully would mean more studios. More studios means more games. Slow-mo, I want to get your opinion on this. Obviously you've heard everyone's opinion. My opinion. I'm a big Sony first-party dude. So I'm actually hoping and praying that this service comes out, because again, I would pay Sony $10 a month or $15 a month to get new games day and date, have a significant backlog library of their first party games, which is always a good thing, and also bundle in PlayStation Plus, so you get your monthly games, you have the online service, all for $15. What do you think, dude? Do you want to see this happen?
I think it will eventually get better. I know that Jim Ryan recently said that they are working and really pushing PS Now.
Right.
They're really pushing within the next couple of years to really make it a service that's going to be worthwhile. And I think they've recognized now that what they've been providing content wise, it's just not enough. You have 90 plus million sold PS4s out there, and you've got 700K PS Now subscribers. That's abysmal. I mean, like, that's
not even 1%.
That's not even 1%.
Yeah.
If that was Game Pass with the smaller install base, you'd be like, even if that was Game Pass on a much smaller install base, you would say that's a failure. So for them, that has to be a massive, like, this needs to change, or we just need to get rid of it. And obviously with them, exploring the partnership with Microsoft, they're not getting rid of it. They're actually going to try to push it even further. I think with the way they are with their first party, I don't think they will ever do day and date. Well, I'm not going to say ever.
No, I know.
They won't initially do day and date, but I can see them putting some more of their exclusives in there at a quicker pace, like maybe 6 months. Like a 6 month gap between launch to the game shows up in PS Now. I think that would be a little bit better. But I mean, even now, like, they got some games that aren't even, like, the Order 1886 was essentially a launch game for PS4. I believe even that's not even in PS Now.
No, it's not. And that's a fantastic game, PS, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. The game came out how many years ago? You still don't have it in PS Now? I have PS Now. And I recently, maybe like last week, was looking through the catalog of games to pick up. They have a lot of Japanese RPG games that I've never even heard of, and there's some other games like, oh yeah, I remember that game. But as far as their first party catalog, it's really barren.
It is, yes.
And so they could really spice that thing up. I mean, if you really want PS Now to take off, well, your systems sell great. And people buy your systems because you have a lot of multiplayer games, not multiplayer, but you have a lot of the multi-plat games that are coming out. You get more games that are third party than to Xbox, because currently right now, you are the premier console platform. But if you're not giving any of that love to PS Now, obviously, you see what the issue is, is that your games aren't going there. And I don't think they'll do day and date, but I think a 6 month gap would do it well. You'll see people sign up for that. Yeah. Especially a lot of people like, I think it was Zemi that said, hey, I have a PC, that would be perfect for PC players. To be like, hey, I get a 6 month, I can be able to play God of War in 6 months. Okay. I'll sign up for PS Now, knowing I can be able to play that great of an exclusive.
You just have to wait a couple of months.
Yeah, you just gotta wait a couple of months, and I can see SIE being cool with that, because for them, they're always about selling. They're selling the hardware. They're very old school. They're not really into what Microsoft and Google Stadia are doing now. They want their games to sell. and within those first 90 days, and they want you to buy their console and play their games on their console. Well, you're still keeping that value of the console. When if you want to play it first, you want to play it right now, you're really hyped to play it, you still got to buy a PS5 or 4 and do that. But here's another option for PS Now that's also on PC, and then you can play that on other devices as well, coming soon and whatnot. So I think that's something that they can eventually do.
It's going to be interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. I would be terribly disappointed if they didn't just listen. I understand nobody wants to be like, oh my God, they copied them. How dare they? I hope that they do, because I would love, I think it would be the driving force to sell a PlayStation Now service that has really been real ugly for the brand. It's definitely one of their Achilles heels, especially when you consider $300+ million spent on Gaikai to get this service up and running, and it's really the investment has not paid off. So if they do use the Azure servers and they do change PlayStation Now and they revamp it from the ground up, where it's going to be more modeled after the very successful Xbox Game Pass, I would be through the moon excited, because again, it would give us day and date first party games, which I think is like, if you look at at Sony as a whole, yes, they're old school. They're all about their console sales. They're all about their game sales. But if you've noticed the language and the jargon that they've used in the last, 12 months, it seems as if they're starting to, I guess, read the tea leaves that digital is going to be a big moneymaker, and they're doing that by seeing the success Microsoft is having. And I think you're going to see them transition that into what the PlayStation 5 is going to be. It's going to be, yeah, sure, they want to sell the PS5. There's no doubt about it. But I think they're going to want to add, they want people to subscribe to PlayStation Plus. They want people to subscribe to the new PlayStation Now. The way you do that, as again, they really don't need any help in advertising because they do that so well. But the way that you get more people to sub, which is where they have a small issue, if you look at the numbers currently, is offer a combined package deal where you get all the services for one price a month, and you're getting day and date games. I think that would be amazing, but that's me being selfish. But listen, I have to say, this show, which just reached the 2-hour mark, has been absolutely fantastic. When the day started, I'm going to be honest with you folks, I was basically shitting bricks, because 3 people that were supposed to be on this panel, basically told me at the last minute they couldn't be here, and it's all for important reasons: family, Noof and So Shady, they were not feeling well, and of course Jamie Moran has something to come up with his pop. So we obviously hope that everything is good there, and life gets in the way. And of course, the amazing talent that I have on today's panel, Slow-Mo again answered the call. Dreadpool pulled out the cape and cowl and answered the call as well. And of course, Clowns, being who he is, he's a gentleman. He was already scheduled to be here. And Zemi Games, who is of course a regular panel member. I could not have done it without you guys, so thank you so much for that. But I want to also just highlight the chat. You guys once again prove why this is the nicest chat in all of YouTube. Lots of banter, lots of talk, so much talk that I actually miss saying hello to people because it was moving so fast. So of course, if I miss saying hello to you, I want to say hello to you and thank you for the outstanding support that you have shown Double Barrel Gaming. The super chat, you guys are awesome and overly generous, so thank you so much for that as well. I want to wish everybody an amazing weekend, but let's get to the outros, and I'm going to start with Zemi Games. Zemi, listen, dude, I love having you on the panel. Your point of view is something I look forward to hearing. I love your honesty, but has your Twitter numbers increased? That's what I want to know, number one. And number two, if you're not following him on Twitter, please do that and head over to not his one, but he has 2 YouTube channels he's going to tell you about. Tell everyone where they can follow you and sub your channels, brother.
Thank you so much, Boom. And to be honest with you, my Twitter numbers haven't increased, but
this is terrible.
Well, I'm still at 550, so I mean,
okay.
That's okay. That's pretty good. But yeah, so Boom, super amazing show. The topics were fantastic. The conversations were fantastic. Everything was just fantastic. So thank you so much for setting up this fantastic show. If you guys do want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, and you can also follow me on YouTube at Zimmy Games. And just thank you so much.
Well, listen, always a pleasure. Everyone's links are in the show notes. If you don't want to have to search them out, just click the links, sub, and of course, follow them on Twitter. I want to go to Clowns. Clowns, listen, I'm hoping that you're still not sinking there in Florida. I know that it's hot as hell, and you're never going to get a calzone until you come back to New York and you sit down and have one with me and Mooch. I want to thank you for being here. Love your opinion. Love what you do with Four Guys with Quarters. Love how active you are in the Twitter community. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where they could follow you, and more importantly, sub your channel.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. Every Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern, we're doing Four Guys with Quarters on YouTube. So it's the number 4 before Guys with Quarters, and you can check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other places like that.
That's awesome. And yeah, one of the hardest working dudes on YouTube. He basically Four Guys with Quarters is basically everywhere, and it's a great show, so tune in for that. Dreadpool, listen, my brother, once again, I super appreciate that you popped in and you helped me out when I was really desperate for guests, and you did a great job as usual. I know you don't have a YouTube channel yet. Hopefully you do get that worked out, because you do have a lot to say, and it'd be great to see you produce your own content. But please tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, my brother.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm glad to help out anytime I can. I do have my Twitter is Dreadpool, all caps, and the O's are actually zeros now that I've figured it out. I guess I've been telling everybody the wrong information. But I do have a Twitter channel with one video, and didn't realize I had it locked down so nobody could find me. I opened it up. It's just a Saganaki, which is flaming cheese. So that's the only thing I have with 6 followers, and it is Dreadpool, all caps, and literally all letters. So
nice.
Don't have to worry about that part. Hopefully, you guys have welcomed me in and encouraged me, mainly you, Salty, Nukem. So if it wasn't for the 3 of you, I wouldn't be doing as much, and hopefully improving my audio for everybody.
Your audio was perfect, dude.
So
perfect.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And obviously working with Italian Clowns, we've done this a couple times already.
Yes.
And Slow-Mo and Zemi, it's great, working with you guys today. I don't know how many other shout outs I could throw out there, but there's a lot of great podcasts out there. Mainly, like I said, I love your positivity. So that's why we, migrate to you.
I appreciate that.
There's
Thank you.
Other podcasts out there that we've already mentioned before, that you've already worked with before, also that generate that positivity and camaraderie. So, we try to, everybody, if you can, help support each other, and let's go with this. And maybe in the future, I will have a show. Maybe
I think you should.
Maybe I'll have something coming out.
Yes.
You never know.
Well, listen, you let me know when that's going to happen, and I will promote the hell out of your show. You deserve it, and like I said, you helped me out in a big way. Slow-Mo, before I get to you, I have to do 2 quick shout-outs. Philly Eagle with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, "Fantastic show, fellas. Great chat too. Thanks." And Matt Burns with the outstanding $5 super chat. He says, "Same. Thank you, gentlemen, for your generosity, and of course, you supporting us by hitting that like button and hanging out in this chat. It was really great to have you guys there." And of course, Slow-Mo Backslap. Dude, listen, I love working with you. Unfortunately, you came a little later, and I talked to you late, so I could, even though that you're known as the Tomax of the Brat podcast. Thanks for the so-called shout out on the ILP, which was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Right now, currently, Lord Cognito does have the title, but like I told him last night on Salty's podcast, I'm in the gym training as we speak to get that title back.
That's right, man. You gotta get those abs up. You gotta get the cardio going. You gotta get that intro chant title back, man.
Yes.
I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. You know, they're outrageous, but again, I have to bow down to the master because I learned from watching Cognito and his amazing openings. But listen, dude, first of all, I'm a big fan of yours. Love what you do with the community. Love your honesty. Like, you do tell it like it is, but you do it in a way that you're not F-bombing someone when they don't agree with you. You do it in a proper manner, and I think that's really an intelligent way to handle certain situations, and you do it very well. You bring a lot of stuff with you when you're on BRAP, of course, and with Luca's podcast, the Scumcast. Please tell everyone where they can follow you, and of course, listen to you on your other shows.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. People can follow me on Twitter, same name, Slowmo Backslap. And I actually have started my YouTube channel for the past couple of weeks. I got like 3 videos out. The last 2 in particular are about what's wrong with the Division 2. And the one I just came out with yesterday is the video about why Destiny should be completely free to play. So nice. I like to have like different ideas that I come up with and do things a little bit differently than everyone else. So I think I should probably have a video out weekly. And yeah. So come subscribe and hit me up on Twitter.
Nice. Well, thank you for being here. Real quick, Zemi Games who's on the panel drops a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for that. He says, "What did the snail say on the turtle's back?" And he replied to himself, "Wee!" So thanks so much for that, dude. Greatly appreciate it. And again, thanks everybody for being here. Really, really appreciate the support that you have shown Double Barrel Gaming. This is a dream come true for me. And the fact that I can get one person, let alone over 100 watching live, is really humbling for me, and it gets me excited to keep pushing the envelope in regards to content. I want to wish everyone an amazing weekend. Please be safe. Treat others how you want to be treated. And of course, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. I learned that from my pops at an early age. So play nice, be nice, have a great weekend, and I will see everyone next week on the new shows on this channel. And of course, my panel, thanks again for everything.